Greetings, fellow action figure connoisseurs, and welcome to another episode of Digital Caveman Presents Marvel Monday. I, as always, am your host, the Digital Caveman, and today I will be presenting you with my top 10 Marvel of 2023. Let's get into it! Here's our honorable mention. He wasn't out this year. He was out last year. But unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to review him until this year. So that's how he made it into this list. But the honorable mention is the classic Red Skull from the Marvel Legends Villains Xemnu Build-A-Figure Wave. Here's my number 10 pick for Marvel for the year. Again, another figure that came out last year, but I didn't get to review until this year. Daredevil from the Daredevil 3-pack that also included the white costume Elektra and the weird costume Bullseye. Or at least, in my opinion, it was a weird costume. But what really makes this Daredevil stand out to me from previous releases is the butterfly hinges in the shoulders and the toe tilt, because this is on the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man body. So, there he is. Number 10, Daredevil from the Daredevil 3-pack. Here's my number 9 picks for Marvel for this year. It's Strife and Pretty Boy from the X-Men Villains 5-pack Amazon exclusive. And yeah, it's two figures, but I felt like since they were in a pack together, it was okay to include them both as one selection, but I didn't want to include the other three figures because they, you know, these were the best two of the bunch. And I felt both of them deserved to be on this list. And unfortunately, there were so many other good figures from Marvel this year that, you know, it ended up I had to put them, to include them, I had to put them together, and, you know, they were included in the pack together, so I felt that was okay. If you disagree, you can leave a comment there, but again, these two are my number 9 picks for Marvel for this year. Here's my number 8 Marvel pick for the year, Hawkeye and Sky Cycle 2-pack from the Avengers 60th Anniversary Beyond Earth's Mightiest subline of Marvel Legends. And I did upgrade my Hawkeye a little bit. Well, I say upgrade. I pulled out my old Toy Biz Hawkeye bow, and I used some straight clippers to notch his fingers so that he could hold the arrow properly. So I did make some minor upgrades to this figure, which, you know, they're really not that big a deal. If you have this bow laying around and you like it better than the one that comes with him, which I know this one isn't as comic accurate as the one that comes with him, but I feel like this bow looks better, and it looks better with this character, or this version of the character. And as far as the costume goes, to me, this is how I always remember Hawkeye from the comics, and it might not be 100% West Coast Avengers, because I think he had the sleeve, the protective sleeve on his arm when he did West Coast Avengers, at least when he started them. But this is the way that I always remember him, and to me, this is a better version than the last version that I got, at least. I don't know if it was the last version they made, but the last version I got was the retro carded Hawkeye, who was much darker colors, and well, he did have the protective sleeve. But again, these colors are more, this is more Hawkeye to me, so that's my Marvel number 8 pick, Hawkeye and the Sky Cycle, Beyond Earth's Mightiest. Here's my number 7 pick for Marvel for the year, the Extremis Iron Man from the Puff Adder Build-A-Figure wave. And the things that I really like about this Iron Man, it's a really clean look for Iron Man, and the pinless knees and elbows really add to the sleek look of this armor. And it has really a lot of articulation. It's only really missing one thing, which is a pull down hinge in the hips, and well, maybe some toe tilt. But as far as this guy compares to other Iron Mans, you know, he has articulated wrists, he has a hinge in his repulsor blast hands, and I think that is great. It's awesome. Another thing also, the power pods on his hips do have some rotation, so in posing you can rotate them out of the way so that they don't get bent. So that is an added bonus. But really, there were a lot of Iron Men that came out this year, and another one that almost made my list was the Mark I Iron Man from the Beyond Earth's Mightiest 60th and Avengers 60th anniversary lineup, and this one just barely edged that one out. And again, I think this is a really clean look for Iron Man. I'm not that big a fan of this particular storyline. You know, I may have read it once and it was okay, but I like this look for Iron Man. And I think it's probably the best Iron Man that they've put out this year, which that's why he's the only Iron Man that ended up on my list. So there he is, number 7, Extremis Iron Man from the Puff Adder Build-A-Figure wave. Here is my number 6 pick for Marvel for the year, the Herald of Galactus Thor from the Controller Build-A-Figure wave. And there are elements of this that say Thor to me, and then there are elements of it that do not say Thor to me. And honestly, just not knowing anything about this, if I were to look at it and he wasn't holding Mjolnir, I wouldn't necessarily know that this is Thor. And to me, it's a really interesting look for the character, and I really like it. His Mjolnir wielding hand does have an up and down hinge rather than an in and out hinge, so that makes it much easier for him to hold Mjolnir aloft over his head and call down the lightning. But this figure, I really enjoyed reviewing this figure, and in fact this figure inspired me to do a special. And if you look in my playlists, you'll find specials in there somewhere among all the other playlists, and there's one special in there, and it's the special that this one inspired me to make, which was the origin of the new Eternia Viking He-Man. And again, like I said, this figure inspired me to create that, and if you'd like to go check it out, it is available again on my specials playlist. But here he is, number 6 for the year, Thor, Herald of Galactus from the Controller Build-A-Figure wave. Here's my number 5 Marvel pick for the year, and this is why I don't call it my Marvel Legends picks or the top 10 Marvel Legends, just top 10 Marvel, is the Marvel Selects Titanium Man. And this figure, my friends, is humongous. He is bigger than most Build-A-Figures. I think the only one that comes close and might outsize him a little bit is the Hulkbuster, the MCU Hulkbuster Build-A-Figure Iron Man from Age of Ultron. I think that Build-A-Figure comes close to this one, and this guy, he feels solid in your hands. He is heavy and he looks great, and I think that the deco on him, which it's all painted as far as I can tell, it's all painted. There are no skipping out on the paint apps for this guy because you just mold it in that color plastic. No, it doesn't really look that way. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like this guy is completely painted, which also makes it a little different than a Marvel Legends. But I feel like this one fits in with my Marvel Legends scale-wise, even though he's a 7-inch scale. Titanium Man was always just huge, and I feel like this figure really does him justice. Now I don't have to wait for Hasbro to give me a Titanium Man Build-A-Figure that just isn't up to this standard. And this is not my first Marvel Select, but it's my first Marvel Select in many years, and I am so glad that I picked this one up. It's great. And if you're an Iron Man fan or you like Titanium Man, you know, this guy, this is the one to pick up. I don't think Marvel Legends, even if they do a Build-A-Figure of this guy, I don't think it's going to do the character as much justice as this does, especially just, he's so freaking huge, guys. It's just, and he's wonderful. He has, I won't say he's the most articulated guy I've ever reviewed, but he has enough articulation in all the right places for this character. Because he's a big bulky guy, he doesn't necessarily move that fast or have that much range of motion in his armor. But again, this is a great representation of this character, and he's my number 5, the Marvel Legends, or the Marvel Selects Titanium Man. Here are my number 4 picks for the year, and unfortunately this is another one of those cases where I could not narrow it down to one, and I felt it was unfair for Spider-Man to take up 3 spots on the list. So they equaled out, all 3 of them equaled out at number 4 for me. And this is not the 3-pack. These are the individually carded No Way Home Spider-Mans, or at least I'm going to say they're the No Way Home Spider-Mans, because we have the Tobey Maguire that is listed from No Way Home. We have the Tom Holland from the end sequence of No Way Home. And we have the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man, who is listed on his packaging as Amazing Spider-Man 2 rather than No Way Home. So we'll just guess that there's some kind of rights issue that prevented them from actually making it, listing him as No Way Home. But I really like these figures. The articulation of them is great. They all 3 have pull down hinges in the hips, which is a great addition. They all have while we're talking about those hip joints, Tom Holland has the best pull down hinge in the hips. The other 2 just have very slight pull down hinges in the hips. And they all three have butterfly hinges in the shoulders, although they all could stand to use a little bit more range of motion there. And they all have pinless elbows and knees. So I'm glad to see that is really starting to be more prevalent in the Marvel Legends figures, because it does improve the look of the figure. And it also improves the stability of the knees, as far as I can tell, you know, at this point. So that's some good things. Now, there were some, you know, minor things going on with these figures as far as accessories. You know, Tom comes with 2 extra sets of hands, and Toby and Andrew only come with 1 extra set of hands. And to me, they, you know, they all should have come with, you know, the same amount of hands, just for posing. But, you know, the deco on these 3 is fantastic, spectacular even. Some might say amazing. But there it is, the number 4 pick for me, for Marvel. The Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and Amazing Spider-Man from Spider-Man No Way Home. The carded editions, not the 3-pack. Here's my number 3 pick for Marvel for the year, the Target exclusive Avengers 60th Anniversary Beyond Earth's Mightiest Black Widow. And this is a fantastic update, at least as far as I think the last Black Widow that I got was the retro carded Black Widow, or it could have been the one in the white suit. But as far as comic book Black Widows go, it was one of those 2. And I really have to say that this one is a great update to that. There were some things missing, at least I thought. I thought she should have had a shin cut or a boot cut about mid-shin and toe tilt. And I could have sworn when they first announced this figure that those were features that she had, but I could be mistaken. But other than that, a pull-down hinge at the hip, and, you know, you'd never need another Black Widow ever. She comes with a ton of accessories, 2 extra head sculpts, which portray her in different aspects of the Black Widow. And if I remember correctly, some of the previous Black Widow heads also fit on this body, but the sizing may be just a tad off, and skin tones might not match up 100%. So there is that, but I do believe they can. I do believe I remember putting those heads on this figure, and they all worked. But the articulation that she does have is pretty good. Butterflies in the shoulders, pinless elbows and knees, which again, I love the pinless knees, because not only does it help the figure look better, it does add some stability to the knees. They don't bend quite as much as the pinned knees do. But there she is, number 3, Target exclusive, Avengers 60th Beyond Earth's Mightiest Black Widow. Here, my friends, is my number 2 pick for Marvel for the year. It's the Destroyer from the Thor vs. the Destroyer Avengers 60th Anniversary Beyond Earth's Mightiest 2-pack. And while I do appreciate that they put the Eric Masterson Thor in that pack, we all know this guy right here, this was the star of that pack. And even though, you know, he doesn't have double hinged elbows, he just has hinge and swivel. I think that's okay for this figure because he's an armored figure and he might not necessarily have, because of his armor, that much range. And even though he has double hinge knees, the range wasn't super on those. I mean, it's enough. I like it. I enjoy it. One thing about this guy is part of him is painted and part of him is molded just in the silver plastic, and I kind of wish that they just would have went ahead and painted the entire thing. I think it would have turned out much, much better. Not that he's bad. He made it all the way to number 2. Aha. Number 2. But anyway, here he is. Number 2 for Marvel, for me, this year. Destroyer, the Destroyer from the Thor versus the Destroyer Avengers 60th Anniversary Beyond Earth's Mightiest 2-pack. My friends, here she is, my number 1 pick for Marvel for the year. Spiral from the X-Men Retro Card Wave. And what a fabulous figure this is. She has all the articulation. Well, not all the articulation. She is missing drop down hinge in the hips and toe tilt, but she has six fully articulated pinless arms with up and down hinges, pinless knees. She does have a boot cut under the fur of her boots. It's under there. It's not where that is. So it's under there. And, you know, she has a weapon for every hand. The sculpt on this is great. The deco on it is great. The only deco that I can think of that it's missing is maybe just a slight wash in her hair and in the fur on top of her boots, just to help some of the detail that's in there stand out. But even with that, if you're not an X-Men fan, you just collect fantastic figures, you don't, you know, this is the one to get. If you only get one Marvel Legend this year, or only one Marvel figure this year, this is the one to get, because it has everything this character needs, again, except for, you know, maybe a pull down hinge in the hip and toe tilt. But other than that, for, you know, a regular mainline figure, it's great. It's awesome. And it is my number 1 pick of the year, the X-Men Retro Carded Spiral. That, my friends, does it for the list. I hope that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. Only support from viewers like you make this programming possible. Each view does count, and I do appreciate each and every single view that I receive. Thank you, and thank you so very, very much for supporting this channel through viewing. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews or lists, or just help the channel out further. You know, that's awesome too. Don't forget to ding that bell so that in the future you will be notified as my new content becomes available. That's a wrap, folks. I'll see you next time.